Hello, my friends on YouTube. Today is Sunday, the 19th of November 2023. Today's video is Gaza's ordeal, or the ordeal of Gaza. Anyway, I received an email, a comment from a person. I don't know if it's a man or woman. However, the email, it says at native versus colonial. And from that email, it's very clear that this person is an activist for the Palestinians, which I don't mind at all. Everyone has the right to live good life. However, it's a question, it's asked quite a bit to people who don't know the history of the area, of the region, of the Israelis, of the Arabs, and so on and so forth. So I would like to take time to respond to this question, and in responding, you have to learn, I want to explain what's behind that question. It's a question, a person who doesn't know the region very well, that question will make sense to him or her, and you will sympathize with what the Palestinian group are doing, from killing and murdering and raping and so on and so forth. Okay? This is the question. If the Jews are promised Israel, this is the first sentence already wrong. Why is it wrong? The Jews were, yes, in the Bible it says God promised the Jews this land. However, the founder of this faith did not just go and claim the land. I spoke in the previous video, or the one before, that Abraham, the grandfather of the Israeli and the Arabs, he went to the natives, the people living on this land, and he paid for the land, not because God, or he had a dream that God granted him this land, that he went and he claimed it using military force. He bought the land. Now, my house here, if I paid for it and the person who sold it to me, he later on became homeless, he cannot come back and say, give me back my house. Sorry, you're homeless now. I know, I understand. It's not a good feeling, but that's not my problem. Continue with the question, that we cleared up this part, that this is deceiving. The Israeli, the grandfather of the Israeli, paid for this land. Okay? So the Arabs as well as the Israelis really should share this land 50-50. And this what the United Nations in 1947 divided the land. They gave the Palestinian more land than the Israelis. The Israelis established their nation as the nation of Israel. The Palestinians never done that. And that because they had a vision to destroy the Jews completely, because the founder of Islam instructed the Muslims, whom the Palestinians became Muslims later on. So they wanted to destroy the Jews, get rid of them completely, because there is hadith says in the last days the trees as well as the boulders, the stones, will call out to tell the Muslims, come, there's a Jewish person hiding behind me, come and kill him, slaughter him. slaughter him. So this idea coming from the founder of Islam, it really spread a lot of negativity and pain and suffering. And believing in this nonsense, you are paying the price now. I'm sorry. We'll talk about that later. We continue with that question. Then what about the Native Americans? It's a good question. What about the Native Americans? He or she is drawing a parallel line between the land of Israel, the land of Palestine given to the Israeli as if it is gift, and the white people from Europe escaping persecution, and they wanted to be free. They migrated to America. Many times I said I lived in Mexico. I know of quite a bit of the tradition of the natives, like the Mayan, the Aztec, the tribes that lived here, so many of them in America. Many people try to paint them. I'm not saying they are 100% evil or 100% good. No, they are like everyone else. Many of them are good people, many also are evil. Okay? But to paint them as angels and only those migrants who came from Europe, the evil, that they deserve to be slaughtered. No. They were running from persecution. And when they arrived to America, they were afraid of the native, that they could slaughter them. And many of them got slaughtered. I have a suggestion to you. I read a book, you can Google it, I don't know if it's online, about Frances Slocum. If you know about her, she was a young girl taken to be she and her brother taken to be sold as a slave, sex slave. Okay, sex slave. All right. However, she was more fortunate. Her brother, nobody knew about him. What happened to him? Yes, she was kidnapped by Native Americans. So they were not angels. Yes, they raided some villages and took the kids while the father is out in the field working. So they did many atrocities. So don't tell me that the land was vast and many of the Native Americans decided, okay, we can live together. Instead of fighting, let's cooperate together. Let's trade. Let's work with each other. Those who had more forgiving attitude and they knew that these people are running from persecution in Europe, okay, they can live here. We can work together. There is plenty of land. It's an open land. Okay. But, yes, did some white commit atrocity towards the native? Yes. Did some native commit atrocity toward the immigrants who came here? Yes. Okay. But to link that to Christians only is like the devil is only living in the Christian. You can go to his comment or her comment and read it. It's like the Christian devils, and that's basically, practically, what the founder of Islam painted the Jews and the Christian. Like each one of them is a little devil. Muslims don't know that, but each Muslim who pray to God every day, they pray 17, they pray 5 times, but in total they recite the beginning of the Quran 17 times. And when they recite that, they curse the Jews and the Christians 17, minimum 17 times a day, without knowing that the Jews, God is angry with them, and like God hates them. God created them to hate them. It's a very weird idea. غير المغضوب عليهم الضالين. And the Christian are those who are lost. They don't know their way, their path. They need to follow Muhammad and his followers so that they can advance. And how much did the Muslim advance? It's a good question to answer. The native Australian continued his question or her question. He or she spoke about the European coming to America is like taking over. Actually, the Native Americans who are living here in America, in the United States and Canada, they have more rights than the average person. They have the reservation, which is a country inside America or inside Canada, country inside a country, and they have their own laws, their own. They don't pay taxes to the United States or to Canada. They make their own taxes, and many of them who want to learn good, they want to have good education, he or she leaves the reservation and they go and find their path and their way in the chances that America is offering or Canada is offering. Anyway, native he or she continues with the question. Like he also drew the comparison to Australia, native Australian, the Aborigine. Yes, the same thing. I'm not saying the white European, when they went to Australia, they did everything in an ideal way. But again, he or she adds European Christian, as it's in like melted in his cell, hating the Jews and the Christian. That all evil committed in the world by the Jews and the Christians. As if the Buddhist or the Hindu, they don't commit any atrocity. They do. What about the Muslim? If we really want to talk frank, we'll talk about that a little later. Okay? The European invaded the Australia and took their land and blah blah blah, erased their culture and their language. No, that's a lie, because the Native Americans and the Native Australians, the tribes, still many of them, those who decided to stay on the reservation, they speak their own language. They do. It was not erased. And the same in Australia, the Aborigine, they still speak their own language. They didn't do like the Arabs, disconnect Egypt from its heritage, disconnect Libya from its heritage, disconnect Tunisia from its heritage, disconnect Algeria from its heritage, disconnect Morocco from its heritage. They couldn't do that in Spain. I'm sure they tried. Okay? I don't know a single word in the ancient Egyptian language before the coming of Islam. Why? It's erased. So you're accusing, I'm sorry, but you have to wake up. You're accusing people of your own behavior. Okay? So he or she continues, if you believe in the mythology of the Jews, they are the source of the evil, of all evil, the Jews. No, listen, You sound like you're a Muslim and you don't. If you don't believe in the mythology of the Jews, Muhammad echoed. If it's mythology and nonsense, okay. If what's in the Jewish Torah is nonsense, the Prophet of Islam echoed this nonsense. So you echo nonsense and you say I have good religion. Put that together for me because I would like to understand it. Okay? So it's either it's nonsense, and that will make Christian nonsense and Islam the most nonsense. If you believe in the mythology of Jews, then you have to believe the pain Native Americans more who are still voiceless and treated like non-human in their own land. This is a lie. Okay? This is a lie. I live in America. There are blacks, whites, Asians, Latino living in America. I am not a white person. I live in America. Nobody asked me what's your religion, what is your ethnicity, how much money do you make. Nobody here really cares. And when a Native American, you really speak to a Native American, I spoke to many, those who want to live in America and adapt the American way, they're happy. The same with the Canadians. The same with the Mexican. Okay? They blend together. They are marrying from each other. They married of each other. Something I don't think, I hope it could happen, the Jews and the Palestinian marry from one another. Because when your nephew or niece is half Hebrew, half Jewish, half Israeli, and half Palestinian, there's no way to have animosity to kill one another. I guess that's too much for me to ask, but I hope it happens in the future. Anyway, this, I have to admit, not only me, but not only the white race or the Christian or the Jews or the Arabs committed atrocity. Everybody have committed atrocity in the past and still happening. Do you think, okay, you will say Israeli are committing atrocity. It's a reaction. Okay? Is it right? They consider it right because it's a survival situation. It's a survival because you have a person who told the Muslim people that you have to destroy the Jews until the very last one of them. Young, old, baby, child, everyone. So when you know that this is happening, it's life or death situation to the Israelis. So instead of living side by side like they lived before the coming of Islam. And before the coming of Islam, I know the world was very primitive, and yes, people fought over land, over sources of water, over grazing area, but now we really don't need to fight over these things. We could say, okay, this is my border, this is yours, and forget about the past, and that's it. So you take one piece of land here, I take one piece of land here, and we live. That's your border, that's mine, and that's it. But it is not about border. I wish it was. It is about the tradition. It's about the dogma that this person left to the Muslim people, that they have to destroy a particular race and hate the rest of the world. If this does not stop, we will continue doing that. Now, you want to talk about the atrocity that the Arabs made? Because the atrocity was not done only by the Jews or the Christian, or the atrocity that the Japanese done, or the Chinese. I mean, if you go on, everyone have done certain atrocity. So, do you know the atrocity that the Arabs did? Invading Egypt, North Africa, Spain, looting their wealth, raping the women. What are you going to do about that? It's an atrocity done by the Muslims. And now it's not just Arab, Muslims. What are you going to do about the slave traders, the Arabs, Muslim Arab traders, who have gone to Africa, talking to the head of the African tribes, telling him, I want, for example, 1,000 or 2,000 slave, young men, and whoever you can capture, bring them to me, I pay you that much. A while later, the Arab slave trader will come, take the goods, pay the money, and take these people, the slaves, to sell them to the merchants who are going to Europe and to America. Do the Arabs have hand in slavery of the Africans? Definitely. And guess what? The Africans who were enslaved in America, many people don't know that because the media doesn't talk about it. However, the slaves who gone to America and to Europe, these were the lucky ones. They were more fortunate. Some slaves were sent to the Arabian Peninsula. You don't see them now. Do you know the reason? The reason is because the men who went to Arabia were castrated before going on the ship. So, because the Arabs had many women, it's permitted. The Prophet told them you can take 1, 2, 3, up to 4 wives, and you can have also concubines. So he had wealthy Arabs had many women, so they needed servants, people to work, so they needed slaves. But they know if a man has 4 wives and 10 women, or 10, 20 concubines, men and women have sexual desire, and when you have 20 women for one man, he cannot satisfy them. He cannot give them the sexual desire they desire. They knew that. So they could actually use the African slave to give them the pleasure they want. So what happened? That could have happened. So the suggestion was castrate them. That's why you don't see trace of black people in Arabia. Is anybody talking about this atrocity? No. So we all have committed terrible things in the past. All. Okay? So if you want blame, let's blame each other. But if you want solution, please look for solution. Thank you very much. We hope to hear from you.